Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well, and yes, the gods have finally blessed you here with a Grand Cathay match featuring the Lord Magistrate, and yes, he is going to be on the blimp as well. So the Sky Lantern, kind of a mobile Harmony station. You can move it over your halberds and spears and get a relatively decent melee attack buff. And, I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Granted, I do think it's probably the weakest option for Cathay's Lord choices. But against Ogre Kingdoms, Ogres do have Iron Blasters, they have Hunters, and of course the little Gnoblars and Leadbelchers and Man-Eaters, but for the most part, you have decent answers against those units. In my experience, when I have brought a Lantern, so I usually don't bring the Lord Magistrate. Sometimes against Ogre Kingdoms, I'll go for like a very defensive position with some cannons, and maybe a Sky Lantern just to give like leadership, as well as melee defense to my units here. You can see right now they're getting 9 and 9, which is pretty darn good, right? So maybe having one Lantern can be worth it, but today we're going deep, baby, and we are bringing the Lord Magistrate on his blimp. And now aside from that, we do have 2 Grand Cannons, spears in the back, halberds everywhere, as well as peasant archers with a metal caster who does have the Plague of Rust. So one of the kind of meta things you've been seeing from Ogres quite a bit is actually going for the Hunters. So Hunters on Stonehorns are very cost effective, and the ridiculous thing about Hunters on Stonehorns is the fact that they only cost 100 gold more to have the Hunter on top than a basic Stonehorn, which is, I think, a little bit of an oversight for sure. They can actually also stealth, but my opponent did not bring that, which I think is really good against Cathay because you can creep up on their cannons and really do quite well. But yeah, it's pretty standard fare, right? For my build, it's mostly just going to be spears and bows with some cannons. Metal Caster is good against Ogre Blobs, and Plague of Rust is good against Stonehorns. So you get the picture. Jade Lancers, Long Marauders on the other side is a sweeper, and that is it. Now for my opponent's Glorious Legion, it's going to be Gnoblars and Ogres, and what is an Ogre without a Gnoblar and a Gnoblar without an Ogre? Well, they are certainly best friends. Cannons coming in, ripping some shots. Gnoblars, of course, take a nice beating, and if you guys are interested, there's a nice article written on the Total Tavern website from J Phoenix about the synergy with these units. But it is Ogre Bulls and Gnoblars. Gnoblars take the beating, Ogre Bulls give the beating. And aside from that, it's going to be some Saber Tusk packs, a Slaughtermaster the Great Maw, who is just basically there to heal the Hunters. And what Ogre army would be complete without the extremely overpowered Gorgers? So here they come, lurking around the wings. This was a best of 3 match on Anticity's Ladder. And Gorgers, of course, in the current rule set are limited to 2, so that is the maximum you can have. And I just discovered them here. Really good usage of the terrain here from my opponent. You know, I can't really see them in their line of sighted from the cannon, so I'm going to have to kind of deal with them the old-fashioned way, which is very, very scary. He's also threatening on the other side with the Saber Tusk pack, so those guys kind of lurking around the wings, looking to find a way into my back line, maybe jump on top of the Grand Cannons, who knows. One Ogre Bull unit has been completely destroyed. The other Ogre Bulls are going to be moving up, and yes, the Magistrate sits atop his mighty Lantern and points and barks orders down to the foot-based troops. Otherwise, like the whole thing, I was like, oh, you know, the Harmony is going to be great, and then I like set him too far away. Or wait, does he not give the Harmony? He should, as like a range unit. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe the basic Lanterns do. I think that might have been the mistake I made. Anyways, in the front we do get the Ogres moving in, and the Peasant Spears were braced pretty well for that. And yeah, they're taking it like champs. Big Ogres moving in, they got their bellies. Gnoblars a little bit behind, so that is a slight mistake from my opponent. Typically you want to send the Gnoblars in first, but the Ogres are so much faster, it's very easy to make that mistake. Now in the back we do have the double Saber Tusks, going to be finding a way in. I move my spears to kind of screen them out, and now the Stonehorns are advancing. Long Marauders scream in to intercept the Saber Tusk packs, which I think might have been a little bit of a mistake sending them in, because I don't know if I like didn't register it or didn't see the Gorgers, but my opponent gets a beautiful ambush on me here, using the Gorgers to take these guys to town. And you know what? Yeah, I think that was actually, even to this moment, oh, and the Power Fist, oh, that hurts so bad. The Fist of the Great Maw coming down and pounding my halberds as they move through these peasant archers. But yeah, it would appear the Lord Magistrate actually doesn't give any harmony to these ground-based units on the Sky Lantern, which I think is really silly. He definitely should. Maybe he counts as the other harmony type since he's like a melee character, which is really, really weird. So yeah, take note of that, guys. I did not know that as we casted this game, but you know, that's what it's about on the channel, learning and having a good time. Because I usually use regular Sky Lanterns, which do work like that. They give harmony to your melee units. Now, nice play here. Saber Tusks get on the Grand Cannon, and there is a little bit of a bug with Cathay cannons where sometimes you can't re-equip them if you get knocked off. So you'll notice often people in tournament games are going to be aggressively diving to try and knock you off, even if they lose the unit, because then they basically kill the cannon, right? Halberd's holding pretty well here, but again, Gorgers have massive armor piercing and are causing some problems as cannons do rip into the Hunter, who has been buffed up by the Troll Guts. So this bad boy is going to be getting a massive heal. Troll Guts, one of the more, I wouldn't say cost-effective heals in the game, but very effective in terms of just getting like a ton of HP. And I'm really eager to actually see how they've reworked like Invocation and these other healing spells in terms of the percentage-based healing, rather than just kind of a raw value. But yep, cannon's still shooting for the last minute. They are being pulled by the Oxen, and the Oxes are going to be trying to get away from the Ogres. They do have, what, like 30 speed or something like that, so they can create a little bit of separation. Some of the Gorgers here are trying to avoid the Peasant Fire, but immediately the Peasant Archers get the Inspired Marksmanship coming in from the Lord Magistrate, but not going to help them too much here in combat against the mighty Stonehorn Hunter. So bounce power is pretty even at this point. We did fend off the frontline Ogres. Most of the bulls were taken care of. Spears defeating these bad boys. And the backfield, it's a little bit of anarchy, but honestly my Grand Cannons aren't doing a terrible job at repositioning. Like, some of them have been able to move away and get out of combat, and that's one of the cool things about Cathay Grand Cannons, is they're kind of like, what, infantry speed, more or less? Yeah, it's like, so these Grand Cannons could theoretically kite like Chaos Warriors of Khorne around the map, which only have 28 speed. Very, very hilarious stuff indeed. But the Lord Magistrate, he's sitting and spinning to winning, just kind of sitting here with the looking, I mean, he's probably super stoked on this. He's like, all the filthy peasants are down here fighting against these like savage, like, you know, beasts that basically want to eat them, and he's just like sitting up in his blimp like, oh yes, peasants, well, if this doesn't go well, I will see you back in the city. He's just gonna float back in his blimp and be super chill, right? Peasant Long Spearman though, fighting pretty hard here. It looks like there's going to be some sort of spell going down. I can't remember what caster I brought, or if I did. Oh, it's going to be the final transmutation, that's right. Going in, Gorgers get hammered, Ogre Bulls get hit. We also do get it on top of the Hunter. So that was actually a pretty good one. The Hunter does move out, but it does wipe out those Gorgers to the last unit. And more or less what my opponent has left is going to be the two Stonehorns, the Gorgers, as well as the Lord, and a couple loose Saber Tusks around the battlefield. Whereas for myself, I have a bunch of these Jade Warrior Halberds, and definitely a bummer. Now a lot of it's becoming clear during this game. I was like, I thought the Lord Magistrate was giving Harmony at so many occasions, but it turns out he wasn't. Long Riders do get the Inspired Assault, which is going to be giving a melee attack. I do think the Magistrate has some potential, especially as like a foot-based character, like on a horse. He's a very cheap option, and his buffs are like, they cost no magic, they're pretty decent, and certainly can be very impactful, but we are falling a little bit behind with the bounce of power here. During the game, it didn't feel so bad though, you know, it's kind of like, okay, he's got a couple big beasties, but I have a ton of spears. I do have my Magistrate who has like 1 million ammo, but it takes a while to get through that. Here are the Saber Tusk packs, unfortunately chasing off some very, very useful halberd models, so they could have been coming in and helping against the big beasts. And yeah, Peasant Spears, it's going to take like 10 years to get through that 110 armor here on the Hunter, but they're trying their hearts out. For Grand Cathay, you guys get in there. Yeah, doing 3 kingdoms proud. Inspired Defense going down, going to be giving leadership as well as melee defense on the spears from the big old blimp of doom. And it looks like Harmony is active. Okay, am I just nuts? Harmony's active right now. There's no miss. Oh, it's the Grand Cannon. Okay, the Grand Cannon crew is here, and that is going to be giving Harmony. That explains it all. Ogre Bulls are broken off. Gorgers are just waddling through my spears. One Grand Cannon actually does manage to get away here, so I have no idea how this happened, or my opponent didn't see it or something. Maybe he didn't have enough units to like feasibly catch this thing, but the Grand Cannon did come back. And thankfully for me, those Saber Tusk packs were actually, you know, rampaging and just chasing something else off. So I was able to rip some cannon shots here, which is quite nice. Power Fist of the Great Maw coming in. I tried to dodge it. Doesn't really do much there. It gets like a couple peasants. So it wasn't really the end of the world, while my spears are going to be reforming. But these two Hunters, man, they're so meaty up on those, and a really powerful unit. Gorgers also moving back there. Gorgers wouldn't be as much of an issue for me, which is something you don't hear often, because the Peasant Long Spearmen could probably trade super effectively into them, considering I have chevrons on these guys, and also the Lord Magistrate, I think, was taking pot shots at the Gorgers as well as the Slaughtermaster of the Great Maw. Jade Lancers on their way back. Jade Lancers in this matchup aren't bad. Pretty good for collapsing like Ogre Bull units. Also quite nice at just hitting Noblars and clearing them out, and yeah, they look pretty cool as well. I can envision this color scheme. Man, when we get the Old World back, and like, I can't wait. The Terracotta Sentinels are going to be a super cool model. I really hope that when the Old World launches, like, they just kind of, this would be my dream, is that they basically just give an updated codex for all the, you know, armies as they were in like the previous editions in terms of their model range, and then obviously they launch with like Kislev and maybe like update some of the Chaos factions. Although honestly, like, most of the Chaos factions like could just be taken from Age of Sigmar and just like, yeah, I like Khorne, for example. Khorne, like Blood Warriors, can basically just be warriors of Khorne, right? If you're looking at fantasy and you put them on square bases, they're probably one of the coolest models in like Warhammer in general is the Blood Warriors from the Age of Sigmar, and the Putrid Blight Kings could just be like warriors of Nurgle. I don't know, they only come with like 5 models though, so I guess they might just like repackage the old Chaos Warriors since they already fit really, really well in rank and file, and honestly they don't look too bad, but myself, I'm looking forward to playing all those guys. Now we run into a pretty interesting situation here. We have the two Stonehorns, which are throwing their spears up at the blimp. Balance of power is pretty massively in my opponent's favor here, but I got a lot of spears. They're trading okay. I have good ammo on the Lord Magistrate, but the Hunters on the Stonehorns proving to be pretty big MVPs right here. Some Gorgers lurking around the wings, going to be pushing in, and I honestly feel like, you know, at this point, I might have had a little bit of a chance. You know, the Hunters are going to probably run out of ammo. We'll have to do a little bit of fast forwarding. They do go after the Magistrate. Spears over here fighting the Gorgers and just being cut to shreds. Their damage is so insane. Wavering right now, and more Spears surge across to try and stop them. We do a little bit of damage, but nothing terribly serious. And his Lord is kind of getting beaten up. Yeah, we do have the big Slaughtermaster in here. Extra Ingredients is active, and he's taking a ton of halberd attacks, which is wearing him down. And now the Blimp is kind of rotating away to try and mitigate that, but it's such a big target. I think the Hunters have hit, like, quite literally every shot. Gorger's pulling back there, running away, while he continues to throw spears, and now there's going to be Inspired Melee Defense. So the spears are going to get a temporary buff, and Saber Tusks did come back, which was unfortunate, as did some Noblars. And I have some archers back as well, so the peasant archers here could be quite useful. Gorgers run to the back of the map, and the two Stonehorns do move into fight. We do also break the Slaughtermaster, which is pretty big. And now the Hunters are just going to be kind of grinding through a lot of my spears and different units here, and maybe we'll be able to get them. How much ammo do we have on the Magistrate? Quite a bit. And in terms of value accrued, let's go ahead and see what he's got. About 800, so he hasn't paid for himself, obviously. And we're trying to take pot shots. We do hit the Slaughtermaster. No, he dodges it with his giant peg leg. Archers shooting in, but Saber Tusks unfortunately do rally. Spears on the edge of the map are able to catch the Gorgers. The Gorger is able to break them pretty quickly, but not before they lose a couple models. They're down to 5 models. These Spearmen might be able to do it. 33 of these Brave Spearmen. Come on, do it for Cathay. This is for all the Cathay games that have been lost in domination battles. Oh, the Atomic Pimp Slap coming in from that Gorger right there. And they're certainly getting shanked. And I think the Ogre Lord did also rally, so a little bit of a mistake not chasing him off. I certainly had the tools to do it. So we are starting to wear down the Hunters a little bit, but Balance of Power is really rough right now, and the mass terror routes are probably going to lead to army losses potentially, as many of my units are running off the battlefield. Slaughtermaster the Great Maw going to be just waving his giant beat stick around, and another Troll Guts is down, and healing on that guy probably will honestly just trigger army losses here, and that will be game blouses, and I think it's time to make some pancakes and call it a day, as we do pop the Slaughtermaster. Once again, Cathay is able to rally its forces. Gorger's still going on like champs, which is pretty absurd. We do pop back here and are finally able to get those Gorgers. The last stand is forming, but we are just too danger close to army losses, and my army will rout. So yeah, GG, well played. It was a really fun game. Obviously not an optimal Cathay build per se, but you know, if you just play what you think is optimal every game, you're never going to discover the new optimal, right? There's always like little tips and tricks and things that are very, very good in these different matchups, right? But overall, very disappointed with the Lord Magistrate, especially with the Harmony thing. I went on this like huge rant in the beginning of the video about it. It was pretty funny, but yeah, pretty sad he doesn't give Harmony. He definitely should. And yeah, Metalcaster was great. Longman Riders, I blundered pretty hard. I think that was one of the big decisive plays, like losing an expensive power piece like that early, which could have been a great sweeper in the late game to clean up a lot of the Ogre stuff on the battlefield, chase things off, kill the Gorgers that were isolated and low. That was a big, big mistake. But aside from that, honestly, the build worked well, and it was against a good opponent, strong opponent. So I think the build could have won if the user had used it better at the end of the day. So GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one for the Ogres. Big value on the Hunters, Gorgers. Not as much value as you would think, but they were still fighting to the bitter end. So really, really tough to finish. GG, well played. See you guys next time. Take care of yourselves.